Hey Stags fans, welcome to the season finale of From the Director's Chair as we wrap up the calendar year of 2018. JJ Duke here with Director of Athletics, Paul Schlickman, just back from a West Coast trip. We'll get to that in just a little bit, but first, it is the winter time. It is basketball season. We're here at the George Bisacca Court Alumni Hall. We have a couple of home games coming up. We'll touch on that as well, but coming into this week, the women's team off to a good start, as to the men, both with a couple of victories, both with challenging schedules. Always, both coaches like to schedule tough heading into MAC play, and it's certainly shown.
Yeah, you know, they're both playing very competitive non-conference schedules, and they've had some ebbs and flows to that, which is pretty natural. But I think they're growing together, they're learning together. There's some new faces on both teams, so I think they're going to get in tune for the conference schedule as we continue to proceed through that.
And there's going to be 3 home games coming up between the men and the women, which will commence on Sunday, this coming Sunday actually, December the 2nd. That's going to be the women against William and Mary. The women will also host Northeastern, and then the men on just a few days afterwards on Thursday night. They're going to be taking on a team that we don't often see at these parts, that's Oakland from out in Michigan. But you know, it's a first real opportunity for the fans to see both teams play right here on home at campus.
Right. Well, it's great to be sitting here right in Alumni Hall. Exciting to bring some Stags basketball back here. Certainly the women have made it their home, but for us to bring back 7 games this coming year, very excited about that. There's a good buzz on campus, there's good buzz amongst our constituents and our season ticket holders. This venerable arena, so much history here, and relative to the tradition and success of our basketball program. And as you know, you can see behind us, we've tried to make some adjustments and upgrade some amenities for our fans, knowing that we're going to play some more games here. So it's a very exciting time. We're really excited about what's coming up next week, and it should be a fun season ahead for us getting basketball back on campus, which is obviously something that we've heard quite a bit and has been a desire for our fans. So here we go.
And certainly, when we go later on to the Ask Paul segment, there was a record number of questions, a lot of them being, what's the atmosphere going to be like at Alumni Hall? What are going to be some of the new game day promotions and kind of just the overall atmosphere? You see behind us, we have the new chair back seats installed. You know, not giving too much away, but what can fans expect when they come back here at Alumni Hall?
Well, we've just tried to really upgrade some things in terms of our concessions, in terms of some of our fan amenities, in terms of our season ticket holders and our Stags Clubs members, and trying to transfer those types of services that they're availed at Webster Bank and bring them to campus, and just try and make that as seamless as possible. Some of the physical things like the chairbacks, just to make it as comfortable as possible for them so that they can enjoy the game. And I think once we get a good crowd in here, which we are working very hard to do, to get students engaged and work with our residence halls and work with our student government to do some things to get the faculty, staff, and students excited about it. I think the atmosphere will hopefully take care of itself. I think people will really be excited about the buzz that this building and the energy that can be created here with a good crowd.
And to make sure to get your tickets for those games as well, and for the full schedule for Fairfield men's and women's basketball that will be played right here at Alumni Hall, fairfieldstags.com. Now, the last time that you and I met, we were right at the end of the fall season, heading into conference tournament play. Consistency, I think, is where we can really talk about for Fairfield fall sports, where he had men's soccer host a conference semifinal. They're the regular season champions. We had field hockey get to their 4th straight MAC championship game. Volleyball, 23rd consecutive winning season in conference play, and women's soccer, certainly they're on the rise. They didn't miss out in the postseason, but they're getting the pieces together. Consistency just remains the same here.
Right, and I think that what's important here is that we are striving to compete for championships every year. Winning conference championships and competing at that level is challenging. It's very difficult. But I think our athletes are doing a great job, our coaches and athletes, and we're trying to give them the resources to compete for that regularly and be consistent perennial contenders. So the fact that men's soccer achieved at a high level again with a lot of young faces and new faces in their program. The fact that volleyball fought really hard after losing some of the greatest players in their history, losing their best player in the preseason to injury, fighting through and some adversity to still get to the semifinals and be on the cusp. For field hockey, again, to have a younger set of players and get to the championship game again, I think that speaks to the fact that we are raising our expectations. those expectations are permeating our student athletes, and we're developing this consistent level of success. And that's exciting, and I think that's what we're striving for, not just with our fall sports, but across the board.
No doubt, definitely builds a lot of momentum heading into their off season and then building up towards next year as well. And one team that actually goes pretty much from fall to spring, that would be swimming and diving, off to an outstanding start. They're going to be competing in the ECAC Winter Championships coming up soon, and the women pulled off a very big victory against Marist just only a couple of weeks ago. That's something that's going to really rile that group up to go get their second conference championship.
Well, Coach Bruno's done a fantastic job in terms of raising the level of competitiveness with that program on both the men's side and the women's side. The ECAC is a great early season test for them, if you will, as kind of a barometer for the MAC championships in terms of format and competitiveness. So it'll be great to see how they go and compete in that. Their number one rival in the MAC is Marist, who's been the perennial, nemesis, if you will. So for them to pull off that victory in pretty good fashion following the MAC championship last year, I think is a really good sign of where that program's going and their trajectory.
Now turning our focus a little bit towards off the courts, off the playing field, but something that you and I are always happy to discuss, it's academics. And certainly we've learned as the new graduation success rate has come out, the reports saying that Fairfield Athletics and Fairfield University continues to stay very high in the NCAA, 97% graduation success rate, and that's certainly got to make you very proud.
A very real and expected point of emphasis for us is the academic performance of our student athletes, and something that we take very seriously, certainly on the front end of the recruitment process. Credit our athletes, I think they take very seriously and achieve and produce so well on that side of the house. So in reflecting back on all the successes that related to that in the fall, the shining example of that are these GSR rates. It's great to be among the elite in Division I, in terms of that aspect of it. There's only 24 schools that are at or above that level of success in the graduation success rate as us. We're in the top 7% of 347 Division I schools. So great success. Credit our athletes for all they do, and our coaches and our support staff for how they nurture them and support them along the way, and certainly to the Fairfield community for the support and all they do for our student athletes as well.
And while collectively it's great, there are individuals that we also must talk about as well. As recently, Alpha Sigma Nu just inducted 5 student athletes, Jesuit Honor Society. That'd be Jenny Jacobs of women's soccer, Alec Melado of men's swimming, Tim Sallet from men's cross country, and from women's cross country, Emma Unterkoffler and Kevin Walsh from men's golf, and also someone that does a lot here for Fairfield Athletics, a grad student, a grad assistant, in fact, for academic services and administrative operations, Kelly Bomber. It's a great showing when you have student athletes, as we've already talked about, as a whole, but when you have individuals reaching the highest, that's got to make you smile.
It's terrific, and I was fortunate to be at the ceremony, very proud to be there and see those student athletes and Kelly receive that award. That really codifies what the educational experience at Fairfield is all about in terms of providing them with the holistic experience and them reaching out and grabbing a hold and taking advantage of those opportunities that Fairfield avails them academically with the activities that they engage in this case for them athletics, as well as engaging in community service and service to others. So they're really embracing everything that Fairfield has to offer in the highest fashion. So it's nice to have them recognized and to have our athletes, be amongst, an elite group of students who are receiving those honors. It's terrific. It makes me very proud.
Congratulations to all involved in that. Now, a couple of episodes ago, you and I were talking about the importance of you to not only, be involved with the community here, but also across the nation, reaching out to groups, alumni groups, prospective student groups, and you had an opportunity to do that as men's basketball traveled out to Seattle. You went along with the team. Tell us about that trip.
It was a great trip on a number of fronts. It was multifaceted, and there's an obvious reason to go out there in terms of our men's basketball program and their multi-team event that they participated in. It was a very pointed effort on our part to go play in a multi-team event in the Northwest, in an area that we are trying to create some inroads for recruiting general students as well as student athletes. We're playing at a fellow Jesuit institution. We've talked about how we're trying to, philosophically schedule like institutions, and particularly within that Jesuit realm. We're able to meet with some some alumni. We were able to meet with some prospective donors and continue to just talk about Fairfield and tell that story. And along with meeting with some guidance counselors in the Seattle area. So we checked a lot of boxes. And to your point, yes, I think it's a very important aspect of what I am doing on behalf of Fairfield, the university, and certainly on behalf of Stags Athletics, to be a storyteller and go out and tell our story to all those constituents, to continue to tell people about Fairfield, enhance our brand, enhance our scope, and have that pay dividends one by one across the board.
And also, you were mentioning to me before we started filming that you're someone that also is a very reflective person. You had a long trip back from the Pacific Northwest. And there's a lot of things that are coming out around this time, where we have our Fairfield Athletics annual report that comes out, as well as the national letters of intent that are coming out as well. What went through your mind as you came back, and what are you trying to bring out here for 2019?
Those long plane fights certainly lend themselves to a lot of reflection. It's a combination of things. Frankly, it's being just beyond a 1 year for me on the job. It's certainly having the annual report come out and reflecting on the past year. And it was reflecting on the trip, and it was reflecting on people's perceptions of Fairfield and why there's such a great buzz about the university wherever we go, and thinking about the trajectory that we are on institutionally. And there's a lot of factors, a lot of reasons why we are, not the least of which, perhaps the most notable recently, is the fact that for the first time ever in the U.S. News and World Report rankings, which are the most notable amongst those types of rankings, we achieved the #1 ranking for universities in the Northeast. That is an extraordinary accomplishment institutionally, and one that we should be very proud of. It is the crown jewel of those types of rankings for us right now, but it also, coupled with that, are some other rankings relative to the national stature of our nursing school, top 10 in the country, top 2%. Our business school, top 10 in the country, top 2%. I've been thinking about that, learning about that, processing that, and as it relates directly to athletics, that is an extraordinary recruiting tool for us. It's a powerful tool for our coaches to go out and talk about those types of things in terms of the caliber of the institution and where we're going, the trajectory we're on, to parents, to student athletes. And it's already paying dividends for us in terms of, and the most recent example of that is the results of the early signing period for us. We've sent out over 100 NLIs across all sports for athletes and got some great returns. And within the pool of those NLI signees are an incredible group of student athletes that are among the best and the brightest that the country has to offer, and across the country. So it's indicative of the caliber we're able to tap into. It's also indicative of the enhanced perception and recognition of Fairfield University, and our enhancing scope and brand. So it's really exciting times. There's never been a better time to be a Stag or be a part of Fairfield University. Our trajectory is going very steeply north, and all the things that are happening are directly impacting us in a very positive way.
Well, certainly 2019 is going to be a big year for Fairfield University, so stay tuned for much more to come. And this brings us to our last segment, and always our most popular segment. That would be Ask Paul, where you, the fans at home, have an opportunity to ask this man right here anything that's on your mind. So if you have any questions in the future, fairfieldstags.com/askpaul. Now, I mentioned at the top of the show we did have a record turnout of questions. So what the folks in the back room did, they pulled some of the best, they combined a few. We already talked about the atmosphere for here, basketball games at Alumni Hall, so that's already by the by. But here we go, kind of a little rapid fire. First off, Rafferty Stadium with lacrosse season coming up. Any look at terms of maybe changing the landscape, or kind of what would it be on the opposite side of the field, where often enough you see, the near side being full of fans, but always the far side bleacher a little empty?
I would say no current plans on the physicality of the stadium. It's a terrific venue. I would say one of the best lacrosse venues in the country, frankly, in Division I. Very excited about the season slate we have coming up on both the men's and the women's side. A lot of home games against great opponents. Let's see, we're going to maximize what we can do in terms of promoting and the fan experience, and let's concentrate on getting some good crowds there, and let's see how that goes this year.
Next question, with the combination of more games on campus at home for basketball, and you talked about scheduling opponents that have the Jesuit mentality or maybe a local rival, are there any marquee opponents that we could perhaps be seeing on the men or the women's side in future in basketball?
Yeah, we're very excited about we have in particular the slate for the men next year. So we've got contracted games with UMass, Bucknell, and Boston College. The Boston College is part of a 3-year deal. So very excited about that, and those are things that we're going to continue to try and tap into, along with trying to get some marquee opponents with other sports on campus as part of home and homes or multiple term contracts as well.
And the last one that we have, the NCAA has certainly looked into perhaps exploring new schools, maybe thinking about adding ice hockey or as well with football. Now, both sports were here at Fairfield University in the past. Yeah. Has the NCAA been in contact, or has that been something that you guys at Fairfield University might be thinking about exploring again?
Well, first of all, I would never say never, but we have no current plans to reinstate football or ice hockey. That does not negate a lot of the great interactions I've had with alums and former student athletes from both of those sports on both sides of the ledger. I love the passion for those folks display. All the football and hockey alums that I've come across are top-notch, terrific, very passionate about their experience at Fairfield first and foremost, and their experience as student athletes. We want to continue to keep them engaged in who we are and who we aspire to be. And frankly, just had a terrific interaction with a bunch of former ice hockey players by virtue of inducting Tim Millay in the Hall of Fame and a couple weekends ago. And so it's been an extraordinary experience interacting with those folks. I've gotten that question multiple times in the last year. No current plans, but certainly does not negate their place in our history and their importance of those two sports in our history. It's the foundation of a lot of who we are.
And we also got a lot of questions as well about other areas on campus, that being the Recplex, club sports, bookstore. We have contacted those people, and hopefully we're going to get some answers soon. So thank you very much for sending in your questions. Again, fairfieldstags.com/Ask Paul if you ever want to ask questions for future episodes. That is going to wrap it up here, but before we do, this completes really our first season of this show. Right. 9 episodes, the best program that you will get anywhere. Take us through why this platform is so important for you, sure. As opposed to maybe some other, shall we say, more traditional means of reaching out to the community.
Let me start by saying I'll digress a little bit, but I want to thank you for everything you've done. I think this has been great. I really appreciate it. Look forward to it. The guys looking at us behind the camera, our external team and our camera production team do an amazing job, so I want to thank them too for all their hard work. I think this is an extraordinary way to reach our constituents in a very real, visible, accessible, efficient manner. I think it's easy to pen letters and or send emails, but I think you get a little bit, without being in people's living rooms, it's about as close as you can get in terms of trying to convey our thoughts about Fairfield athletics and our thoughts about Fairfield University. So it's very important to me and to us to try and create that connectivity with all our constituents. I think this has been a great way to do it. The feedback's been very good. We certainly appreciate everybody who continues to watch it and listen, and hopefully that continues, and we'll continue to try and provide you with as much information on a regular basis as we can about all things Stags athletics and all things Fairfield. So I think it's been great, and thank you for everything.
Well, it's certainly been my pleasure, and that's going to do it here for us. So on behalf of Paul, myself, and everyone here at Fairfield University Athletics, we want to wish you all a very joyous holiday season, a very happy and safe new year. Make sure to come here for basketball games, and we'll see you in the new year. But until then, go Stags.